Hello, everybody, both on Zoom and on Facebook Live. Welcome to our fourth installment of Wednesday Weekly Skillshare, a program all about learning a new life skill or general life hack during your time here at Pacific. Today's session is all about backpacking tips and tricks. My name is Amber Mateer. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm the graduate assistant of competitive sports and outdoor programming at Pacific Rec. The session will be recorded and posted on our YouTube channel later. If you have any questions throughout today's presentation, you can drop them in the chat via Zoom, or I'll also be checking our Facebook comment box if you have any questions there. Also, for Pacific affiliate participation counts, I'll be dropping in a check-in link both on the Zoom and on the Facebook. So if you take 10-15 seconds to fill that out during this presentation, please do that. As a future plug, next week's session will be at 2 p.m. featuring Gabby Huffman, one of our students at Pacific Recreation, and she'll be going over some critical basic bike mechanics. So at this time, I will hand the virtual microphone over to our special guest speaker, Mary Conley.
Hi, everyone. My name is Mary Conley. I am the admin for Pacific Volunteer Center. I'm going to be talking some basic stuff about some backpacking. It's mostly just me nerding out about my stuff that I have. But I hope that if people have questions, can they type in or? Okay, well, let me know if y'all have questions or clarifications. All right, so. First and foremost, I know that with COVID and everything going on, a lot of people are getting into camping and backpacking, which is great. The outdoors is a wonderful thing that almost anyone can do. It's great, the thing to do with friends and family. However, there has been a lot of issues coming up too with everyone going out backpacking and camping too. There's a lot more people going out. There's a lot more trash. There's forest fires going on. So I wanted to talk about some things so that we can do to help mitigate those, because we want to make sure that after 2020 is over, crossing fingers, that we can all still go back out to the woods and everyone's safe and sound too. So first, before you plan your trip, I always suggest people who haven't gone before to go with some experienced friends or family. One, because it's a safety thing. You want to make sure that someone knows where you're going, or at least has an idea of where the location is, that the people that you go with have some sort of knowledge too, so that you're being safe with your gear. You're not at any risk of dehydration, anything like that. And also too, because backpacking and camping is a very, very expensive hobby, and you can easily spend hundreds of thousands of dollars pretty quickly. And I'm a cheapskate, and I like to go backpacking with my friends who've done it for a while, because then I can see the things that they've used, and I can be like, I like that, I'm gonna buy that. I do not like that, I'm not gonna buy it. So what happens a lot is when I first started getting into it, I just kind of went into backpacking guns a-blazing. I bought all this stuff, and I realized that I didn't know what I was buying, and it ended up I had to rebuy stuff that worked for me later on. So it's just a good way for you to save some monies while you're at it. So we went over telling someone where you're at. I always tell somebody who isn't going backpacking with me where I'm at too. So if something happens with the group, you have another set of people who know, okay, Mary's not back by Monday, maybe we should start doing something, seeing where she's at. Let's see, you can always make sure you have GPS too. It's really accessible nowadays. People, you can download maps on your phone too. I always like to carry a map with me. You can't go around with a paper map. Keep it in a Ziploc bag. Those are always a good thing to do. Should phones die, electronics go haywire, you always have the map. And knowing how to read the map too. As we go digital, it took me a while to relearn how to read the map, because I'm so used to my phone and GPS, so it's a good skill to have. So going into backpacking, I don't like carrying weight, because I'm a lazy backpacker, which means that if I'm gonna go up a mountain that is 9 miles one way uphill, I'm gonna try and carry the least amount of weight I want with me. Some folks, but that also, there's a balance between weight and quality of stuff you want. My partner and I, we usually do a lot of ultralight backpacking, so we want to minimize as much as possible. But that's up to some folks. If you're all right with carrying X, Y, and Z, extra couple pounds because you want that extra thing, then so be it. It's up to you and your preference. So the first thing I want to talk about is backpacks. There's lots of backpacks out there. I know, and Amber, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe you can rent a lot of gear too through Pacific Rec, which is awesome because, again, don't invest all that money if one, you ended up don't liking it, or the thing that you got isn't right for your body shape or whatnot. So use the rental things. I have 2 backpacks here with me. This one is, I don't know if y'all can see it, it's an Osprey Kestrel 48 liters. When you look at backpacks, you'll see a lot of them come with numbers. So it'll be like 54 liters, 48 liters. Those mean how much capacity they can hold. This is a 48 liter. This one I used for like a couple days. It's pretty good. There are some backpacks that are geared towards the different sexes too. So this one was marked as a unisex one. I had it for a long time. And then I realized that on the back, they have these hip straps. You can see right here. These wrap around your hips because you want most of the weight to be on your hips. And I noticed that with this backpack, it started to just hurt after a while. So I started looking into women-specific backpacks. And that's where I got this brand new one that I didn't get a chance to break out yet because COVID hit. This is a Kelty one. And the main difference with this women-specific one is the pads is way more thicker, way bigger. It can wrap around my hips more. It's more comfortable. The straps up here are a lot more cushioned, and they're shaped like a more S shape because sometimes women have more stuff going on in front, and so we need that little extra space. And that again is up to personal preference. The unisex one I had worked fine, but I just want it to be a little bit more comfortable. So folks who want to get into a backpack, they can think about that too, if they want to go for a sex-specific one or a general unisex one too. Okay, so going on, the next probably biggest thing is your sleep cycle, the sleep system. With sleeping bags, there's usually 2 kinds of sleeping bags you can get, synthetic or down. I have with me a down one. All my toys I get to share with people. So this one is a down one. You can see it's like super fluffy, down, goose down, duck down, or whatnot. There's pros and cons to both. I like down because it's so soft, and after you've been sweaty and tired and you just fall asleep onto a nice plush sleeping bag, it's awesome. Down keeps you warm, pretty warm, and it's pretty compactable. So with this, I just shove it in my sleeping bag, and then I just start shoving all my stuff into it. Synthetic is great too, though. Synthetic, they make like different kinds of synthetic materials. But the nice thing about the synthetic ones is it is cheaper. It is way cheaper than down. If it gets wet, you can still be warm, it'll dry. If down gets wet, it can be really hard to stay warm because it just starts clumping, and then you're just kind of miserable with a wet sleeping bag. But again, down is a lot more expensive than synthetics. But again, personal preference. I have 1, 0, and when you see sleeping bags, you'll see the degrees too. That is supposed to be how warm the bag is. So this one that I just pulled out is a 0 degree sleeping bag. I do have a synthetic one that's about 20 to 30 degrees. So it keeps you warm. So I use that for summer. The other thing too about sleeping bags is as they get older, they don't keep you as warm. So keep that in mind. This one's a couple years old already. When storing down specifically, and you want to try and keep it in like a big loose bag like this because you don't want to damage the down fibers. People also get into things like quilts too. It goes back to that whole idea of like, I want to carry less weight. The warmer sleeping bag you have, the more weight it will be. It'll probably be one of the heaviest things in your pack, so keep that in mind. So you got your sleeping bags. Next is the sleeping pads. The sleeping pad, the tent, and the sleeping bag is assuming you're going to do tent backpacking. With sleeping pads, there's a whole bunch of items out there for folks to try. The one I have is it's a pretty reasonable one from Costco. but it's an inflatable one. I don't know if y'all can see, but you just blow it up, you lay on top of it, you put your sleeping bag on it, and you just knock out. You'll notice with sleeping pads, they'll have R ratings. The higher the R rating, the warmer it'll keep you, because what happens a lot is, you know, I might have a 0-degree sleeping bag and it's the warmest thing in the world, but once I lay down, it's going to crush all that down. And it and so far, sorry, when the down gets crushed, all the warm air gets sucked out, because that's how down keeps you warm. So if you're sleeping on top of things, that's not really keeping your back warm. And when laying on the cold ground, it just sucks out all the cold air in you. And it's an awful feeling to try and sleep when you're warm everywhere else except for your back, and every point that you touch on the ground is really cold. So sleeping pads are great for that. Again, the higher R value, the warmer it is, but that also means it's going to be heavier for you to carry too. Let's see, there's like blow up ones, and there's also like foamy ones too, if folks want to try that. Next is tents. So there's lots of kinds of tents out there. There's like regular car camping tents. You'll see like the Coleman ones, the big ones, you can fit like 8 people in them. When I go backpacking, I try and look specifically for backpacking tents, because it's, again, the weight. So the tent that I have, I should have just brought it over here already, so you're gonna see me get up a lot, is this kind of tent. So these 2 things are my tent. 2 people can fit into it. It weighs probably 3 to 4 pounds. And it's super lightweight too. So if there's like a heavy torrential downpour, I'm probably gonna get soaking wet, but that's why you look at the weather. Because again, it's all about reducing the weight. I'm gonna mention that a lot because, you know, like 5 ounces doesn't seem a lot, but after, you know, like 7 hours of hiking, you can feel every one of those ounces. The best analogy I can think about is when folks have a backpack or a purse and you're like, why is this so heavy? And you open it up and it's just full of little things like lip gloss, chapstick, your cell phone. And you're like, it's just all these little bits and things, but it's because all those little bits and things combined together make it so heavy. So anything you can reduce, is less weight you have to carry, easier on your back, more enjoyable. But again, it's that compromise between weight and what things you want to bring. So as far as my tent goes, I always advocate for backpacking tents specifically, instead of carrying the regular car camping ones, which can be pretty heavy. Okay, so that's for if you want to sleep in a tent. You can also have the option of sleeping in a hammock too. I've been recently doing hammock backpacking, which is, it's actually kind of cool. I thought I would hate it, but I don't hate it as much as I thought I would. And it sounds exactly like what it sounds like you're hammocking. But these ones, it's just this little tiny bag. And the nice thing about the hammock system is you have the potential to eliminate a lot of weight. The only downside is I need to be sure there's some trees there or something where I can hang my hammock. You can get hammock rope extensions. So that way, if the trees are too far apart, at least you have extra slack, you can tie it on. You actually can sleep diagonally on a hammock, which will make you sleep flat. Because most people, when you think of hammock, you sleep like in a banana boat style. But there's a way you can actually sleep it so you're laying flat. Because I have a bad back and I was worried about sleeping like crunched up, hunched like this. And it actually turned out to be really comfortable because I was able to lay flat. So with hammock camping, you just need a hammock. You need potentially the extenders if you think you're going somewhere with not a lot of trees. I hate bugs with a passion. So I also have a bug tent. It's just a giant net that goes outside of your hammock. So I don't have to worry about that noise that everyone knows I'm talking about when you're trying to sleep at night. Bug nets are great. They add a little bit more warmth too, which is good. Hammocking is nice during the summer because it's warm enough. You don't really need a lot of stuff, which means less weight. I did go hammock camping when it was pretty cold, so I also got a underquilt too, which is an additional, like, think about it as a blanket that goes underneath your hammock. Because again, with going back to the sleeping and your sleeping bag's compressed on the ground, it just sucks all the air out. So if you're sleeping on a hammock, it's gonna the air's gonna suck all that warmth out. But if you have an underquilt, it'll keep you nice toasty. That was pretty cool. All in all, I think my hammock setup was maybe like 3 or 4 pounds. It's pretty good. I invest a lot in my sleeping because, you know, if you're backpacking out there and you're just tired and you're dirty, you want to make sure you get some good sleep because you're going to need that energy to keep on hustling through. Yeah, so that is tent camping, hammock camping. Let's see. Next thing, oh, you can also get tarps too for hammocks as well. It's just like a little A-frame tarp that some people can get. I don't know, that one's optional. My partner likes to go all out, so that's him. He likes the bug nets, he likes the tarps and all that good stuff. Next, I wanted to talk about food. So as far as preparing food goes, you can get, there's a couple different options. We always go the route of dehydrated food meals because it's just way easier, simpler. I have a couple examples here. These are cool. They can be pricey though. So like you go to any outdoor store and you can see like, this is pad thai. This is actually delicious. You just add boiling water to it, you stir it up, and then you just eat it straight out of the bag. Super easy, super quick. It's dehydrated, so it's not even that heavy. We've even found for, the nice thing about the dehydration is almost any meal can be dehydrated. So we even found like vegan beans. So if you're a vegan, vegetarian, there's also options too. That pad thai was actually a vegetarian dish too. As far as cooking goes, we like to use these mini stoves. So this is the stove. They make a lot of ones like this. This one's called the Pocket Rocket. It just goes on top of a canister of gas. Boom, just like that. It's pretty simple. It's super light. You can find a lot of those. So that's the main system that we use to cook. What I'll do is I'll take this and I'll just put like a pot on top, boil some water, put in my food, call it a good day. It's also we make hot water, coffee, all those good things. Some folks like to cook by campfire. You always want to make sure when you do go out to check to see if fires are allowed to. I know a lot of fires were going on this year. There was a campsite. The whole campsite had to be evacuated due to a fire. So you always want to make sure, be aware of your surroundings, where you're going, because fires do spread fast. If you decide that you did want to make a campfire, you need to make sure that you put that campfire out 100% completely. It should be so cool enough that you could run your fingers through the coals. If you can't do that, you still need to put it out. And I know sometimes it's easy to be like, oh yeah, I put some water on it, it's fine. But that's how, it just takes one spark to start a whole fire. I remember one backpacking trip I did, we were burning one log and then we put it out. And I remember going to sleep and I'm just laying there and everything's dark, and then I just see a fire flicker up again. I was like, oh, someone outside, and I went back. The log had relit itself while we were sleeping. Luckily, I saw it. So it's always just better safe than sorry. Again, pour as much water as you can, pour sand in it, mix the mixture, keep on cycling between stirring and putting water. And again, you should be able to run your fingers through the fire coals after you put it out, and that'll give you a good idea of when to know that it's safe to leave. But these guys are pretty safe. It's an easy turn on and off mechanism too. Because these dehydrated foods can be expensive, we make a lot of our own meals too. Like, it's just easy as getting tortillas Sometimes I'll eat those little baby bells. I'll bring peanut butter and jelly tortillas. I'll slap them together, eat that. Tuna, crackers. It's just anything that's easily packable. If I can, I will open up the bags or the cans and I'll put them in Ziploc bags to take out weight too. Because if you want to have chili, that's all fine and dandy. But if you're going to bring like 2 cans with you, that's a lot of weight. So you want to try and think about how much to reduce as well. A lot of folks tend to bring way more food than they need to. It's always great to have snacks and whatnot, but again, it's the weight that you're carrying. So what I like to do is I plan out lunch, dinner, breakfast, and that's how I make my meals. I'll get snacks in between, but my goal is to, when I leave, I've eaten everything, maybe besides like 1 bar or 2. But for that, it's hard to know. It's kind of hard to gauge at first how much food you'll need. So sometimes it might take you a couple times. Again, if you go with experienced people, ask them like, hey, what are you taking? Do you think I need 40 of these granola bars? I don't know. Are you going to get sick of granola? Who knows? So it's just one of those trial and error kind of things. I know we're getting close to 2 o'clock. And I have still so much more to talk about. So I'm going to kind of skip around real quick. As far as clothes go, no cotton. You want to bring as many layers as possible. Instead of bringing like that 1 thick jacket, you can bring 2 jackets instead. So I have like a lighter jacket, and then I have a raincoat that blocks out the wind to keep me warmer. The nice thing about layering too, if it's too hot, you can take it off. If it's too warm, you can put them on. Pooping. Okay, pooping. We're gonna talk about this. In Tahoe, there's lots of, again, people going camping and whatnot, and there was poop everywhere. If you're gonna go backpacking, either you're gonna make sure there's a compost toilet out there, or you gotta be prepared to poop in a hole. Ain't no shame about that. If you do need to go poop, make sure you get a trusty trowel or a stick. Go off the trail, because nobody likes stepping on poo, let alone human poo, because for some reason human poo is way, way grosser. You want to dig a hole about 6 to 8 inches deep, 4 to 5 inches wide. Do your thing, cover up the hole. Sometimes you can put a rock on it. You can put a stick right next to it. If you're ever backpacking and you see a stick sticking up out of nowhere and it looks weird, it's probably because someone pooped there. And you want to make sure that the hole is deep enough, because what happens is animals will come and they'll dig it out and then they'll eat it. And we don't want that to happen, because the stuff that we eat probably isn't as great as other things that we could be eating. Same thing with toilet paper too. Either you pack it out with you, put it in a Ziploc bag, take it with you, or if you're going to bury it, you better make sure that, again, it's buried well. Again, they talked about in Tahoe, there's just poop everywhere, and it's just not a great time with people who, really quick, for ladies on their period, you can still go backpacking. I've done it lots of times. It doesn't sound the best, but it's not that hard to manage. I like to use, sometimes I'll use reusable pads. Sometimes I'll just use disposable ones, but I'll pack it out with me. Anything you take out and you want to make sure, anything you bring in, you can pack it out with you. So I put the tampons, they have like organic ones that don't have the plastic applicators. You can put those in Ziploc bags, take it with you. Some people have asked, like, what about bears and menstrual blood? There hasn't been any, as far as I know, scientific conclusion about bears smelling menstrual blood and going crazy. Some folks like to use the Diva Cup too, which is pretty easy. You just pull it out, rinse it out, put it back in, call it a good day. Baby wipes are gonna be probably one of your best friends with that. It is 2 now. I still have a lot of stuff. I could go on forever. But maybe that'll be another session. I hope if anyone has questions, please feel free to email Amber or email myself. We could talk about it for days. Is there anything else, Amber, you wanted to share? I'm sorry I went there so fast.
You're good. That was awesome. We do have 2 questions, so we'll take the next like 5 minutes, even though we're a little bit over, just so you have time to answer those. So the first question we have for you is, do you have a preference with hiking poles at all?
Yeah, I have some right here. Check that out. Hiking poles. Okay. Some people don't like them because they think it's dorky. I'm going to say that. I was one of those people. I'm like, hiking poles, whatever. But then I busted my knee. And then I was like, wow, these are really helpful. Even if you don't have busted knees, it's great. Hiking poles help take off the weight from your body. It doesn't seem like it, but every time you push down, the weight's getting transferred to the pole. So it can help you a lot, especially with your knees. And we only get 2 pairs of knees. So it's not, so unless you got money to get robotic legs. I think they're a great investment too. They help with balance. There's several times where I've almost biffed it. And if I didn't have the poles, I probably would have biffed it even harder. The nice thing about poles too is, like, say your tent stake breaks, you can use these too. I've made a tarp with the poles too. They just stick it in the ground to tie it. But I think they're a good investment. Again, it saves your knees. It's good for your joints. They don't take up much space or weight either. And it's just one of those things that'll help your body.
Awesome. So our other question is, do you have any advice about breaking in your hiking shoes?
Yeah, so I got some mean old bunions. So I definitely have to break in my shoes. Some things I've tried doing is, okay, easiest thing is just to wear them around the house. You want to break it in that way. You can also, what I've done is I've put a Ziploc bag inside the shoe, and I put water in it, and I freeze it. And what the water does is it expands, so it pushes out the shoe. And then you let it defrost, and then the shoe's a little bit more stretchier that way. There's also different ways to lace up your shoe too. So again, y'all know about my bunions now. So there's one part of my foot that I always need a little bit extra space, and I learned that if you just lace them a different way, it gives me that extra space in that area. So you can actually look it up, different ways to lace up a hiking boot to give you space where you need it. And for hiking shoes, I always suggest getting bigger. I'd err on bigger than smaller, because your feet will swell. Your feet and hands are definitely going to get swollen. And cut your toenails. Ooh, that's so important. People underestimate cutting the toenails. Please cut your toenails before you go hiking or camping. It makes a big difference.
Wow, that was a great answer. So those were the 2 questions that we had for you right now, Mary. Really appreciate you sharing your knowledge. I feel like I learned so much, and that was just a very entertaining overall presentation. Yeah, so thank you everybody who's tuning in either on Facebook or on Zoom. Really appreciate it. And of course, again, Mary, just thank you so much for your time and sharing your expertise. And again, my last thing is, of course, our future plug for next week's session. We're going to go over bike mechanics. So until next time, thank you so much, y'all, and have a good rest of your Wednesday. Thank you, Mary.